much. Will Paul Walter stand by? And I call Majid Nawaz from Hampstead and Kilburn. Majid has recently been selected as our candidate, and we wish him well.
Thank you. Good morning, conference. No right to silence. Interestingly, that's the title of Chapter 5 in my autobiography, and the reason that is because I have been detained under Schedule 7 at Heathrow Airport. I was surprised to learn, upon my return as an Amnesty International adopted prisoner of conscience, that this country had adopted the sorts of draconian legislation that was used for my own detention in a developing country, in a country that later witnessed a revolution in an attempt to reform such draconian measures. I was told by the police officer that anything I said and anything I didn't say, anything I refused to say, and whether I spoke or I didn't speak, would be deemed or could be deemed as a criminal offense. So just imagine the fear that one feels when they are told that even their very silence could be used against them. Just imagine the hesitation, the confusion in one's mind, not knowing whether to speak or not to speak, because every sentence you may or may not utter is deemed a criminal offense. I was then forcibly told that my DNA would be taken, which it was. I was told I had no right to legal representation. Imagine the sheer and utter fear that somebody who looks like me would experience in that situation. I then asked, whatever happened to civil liberties in this country? And I was told, these rights have been legislated away because of terrorism. Well, there's two things I did, conference, after being released from Heathrow, from my detention, as well as writing the book to talk about it. I founded an organization that became the world's first counter-extremism think tank that specializes in advising government on how to deal with terrorism. I've briefed every Prime Minister from Tony Blair onwards on this subject, and from that professional background, as well as my personal background, I disagree with my colleague who opposed this motion, because of course the issue is not Miranda and his use or misuse of this information. When discussing policy, it's almost irrelevant to discuss the particular case that brought this debate here today. I don't support what Mr. Miranda did, but I do support this motion, because it's irrelevant as to whether somebody is deemed guilty or not to discuss the fact that they have a right to legal representation and they have a right to silence. Because if what Mr. Miranda did was indeed wrong, then that's for the courts to decide, it's for due process to decide. If one thing we learnt from reading Orwell, it's that security must never be used to debase us of our basic civil liberties. Yesterday I spoke on a motion for a stronger economy, and today I'm very happy, despite a very late night, to be here to speak on a motion for a fairer society. And I'll end my remarks by saying the other thing I did when I left that room. As well as founding a counter-extremism organization to specialize on advising on these issues, I said to myself, one day I want to play a role to get back at this Schedule 7 law and play a role in its destruction. And that's why I'm here today, because I will vote for the motion to severely restrict the powers that say that anyone who wants to remain quiet will be charged with a criminal offence. Thank you, conference.
Thank you very much. Will Jeremy Brown please stand by? And I call Paul Walter from Newbury.